Peace, everyone, and welcome to week 9 of 2026, which aligns with the Nine of Hearts card. So, I will, in this video, go through the Nine of Hearts spread, all the cards it has in its life path, and what kind of energy we can kind of expect collectively as we all get to experience this beautiful Nine of Hearts. Now, the Nine of Hearts is the card of universal love, agape love, a giver of love. It's a big heart energy. We've been in the heart since the beginning of the year. And so this can be a lot of feels, a lot of emotions. And it's really asking us to kind of surrender to the heart, surrender to love, realizing that we all are connected and we all are a source of universal love, right? So now, something else about the Nine of Hearts, and I'm not going to go too much into this because I don't want to confuse anybody, but it is one of the semi-fixed cards. So it naturally sits, let me zoom in a little bit so you can see this better. It naturally sits right here. And so this is Saturn, right? And as is this, Saturn. So the Nine of Hearts sits Saturn, and it only ever moves to its other half, I guess you could say, placement, which is the Seven of Diamonds. So the Nine of Hearts and the Seven of Diamonds go from each other's house, no matter what plate you look on. That is a semi-fixed card. So they only sit in Saturn, and they only sit in Venus. They don't sit anywhere else on these plates, no matter what plate you look at. But this is the life spread. This is the blueprint. This is where we find all the life paths. So we'll stick to this plate, right? So the Nine of Hearts comes with heavy Saturnian energy, right? And with Saturn, there's a lot of discipline, but you have to be disciplined with those emotions. You have to have boundaries because the low side of the nines is no boundaries, over giving, over sharing, over loving, over pouring, overdoing it, right? And then that can lead to some resentment or bitterness or not feeling it not being reciprocated. So if you're going to give the love, you've got to give it from the overflow. Remember, this is universal love. That's big. The universe is mass. So this is a big love energy, and it can definitely show as a lot of feels, a lot of emotional energy. You may find that you suddenly cry because it needs a release. It needs an outlet. It needs a way to kind of shed any old disappointments, any old hurts, pains, loss, and look at it as a really powerful way to kind of open up the heart, pour into yourself, love yourself. And then the most beautiful aspect of this Nine of Hearts is they're being very compassionate. It's a counselor card because they really know how to kind of relate to others, but you have to be careful, especially in this week. Don't become a dumping ground for other people's emotional garbage, right? That's where the boundaries have to come in. It's one thing to be compassionate, it's one thing to counsel, but know when to say no, know when to be like, you know what, I need a moment, because then you, or collectively, if you are a Nine of Hearts, can take on those emotions of other people, and it can get heavy and it can weigh you down. You're like, where did this come from? It's not even mine. So you have to have those boundaries and the ability to be able to say no. But I will say this as well. If it gets heavy, if it gets emotional, one of the best remedies is to give. That is the beauty side of the nines, is to help someone. They're very humanitarian, and giving from that open heart, that love energy will actually feel very good. It can help uplift any like disappointment, endings, loss, or whatever may show up. Quick note as well. Mercury goes retrograde this week, which I find really interesting that we are in a Nine of Hearts week, and it's in Pisces too. So I can kind of see it from their Neptune card, the Two of Clubs. You may have to kind of have some conversations that come back around so we can resolve it, so we can let it go. So Mercury is going retrograde, everybody. Our first retrograde of Mercury in this year. And it's in Pisces, where there is no logic. It's only, dissolving and deep dives and a lot of emotional energy. So we may be going back over some old conversations around the heart, around relationships, around feelings. But again, boundaries are going to be key. So let's look at the spread of the Nine of Hearts. Like I said, it does sit Saturn. So there is a lot of like that discipline, responsibility. And again, knowing that with nines, because the high side of the nines, and especially this one, this is a wish fulfilled. We cannot discredit that Saturn will fulfill our wishes if we've done the work, if we've been responsible. And usually that comes for the Nine of Hearts when they are sitting in their counterpart Venus. Or have you been disciplined with all the Venetian energy? Because if you have, Saturn will reward. Saturn will crystallize. Saturn can be a blessing, but again, it comes with discipline. It comes with responsibility, comes with accountability. So it's a big part of this week because of the Saturn placement that the Nine of Hearts has. Now, their Mercury card is, and as you see, usually I go over the karma cards, but it is just the Seven of Diamonds because it's like other half, and they each are each other's karma. So, and it's sevens and nines travel together. And as we see, this 9 has a 7 of clubs in Mercury. So the mind can flip flop this week, and it really will require a lot of mental discipline to kind of stay present. Watch what you speak. Are you speaking life, or are you speaking the other thing, right? But it's not even just what you speak to other people. It's really, what do you say to yourself? If something doesn't go the way you thought it was supposed to go, can you still see the bright side? Will you still speak life? Will you still have gratitude? Because this is a very powerful mental card, and it is the power of your words, the power of your thoughts, power of your beliefs. So if they are on the negative side, this is when you become aware and you can kind of like unpack that and release it. That's the beauty of the sevens and the nines. It exposes where there may be lack or fear or doubt or worry so that you can let it go, 9. So you can release it, 9, right? So pay attention to the mindset this week. Pay attention to your thoughts. Pay attention to how you respond to things. And are you like your own little cheerleader or your own little nemesis, right? Inside your mind, inside your thoughts. And again, watch the words, because powerful words this week. Now, their Venus card is the 5 of Diamonds. So there is this like, don't box me in, give me emotion, or give me that freedom, right? But also with the 5 of Diamonds, is this relationship valuable? Is it stable? Because sometimes with 5s, there can be a disconnect, right? But at the same time, am I free? Am I free to love unconditionally? Because the absolute beauty of 5s is the freedom. And since it's in Venus for them, and it is a 9 of Hearts, it really is about freeing yourself of any, again, heartache, disappointment, loss, releasing, surrendering. You have to let go. You have to make some changes. And again, with the 5 of Diamonds, there can be investing in the home or redecorating. It also can investing in relationships. I always say with 5 of Diamonds, it's like money in, money out, money spent, money made. And it can be a whirlwind. There can be some spontaneity. There can be some changes within your relationship dynamics this week as well with this 5 of Diamonds. But again, truly love is to give space and to have that freedom, to be you, and to them for, them to be them. And then you come together in this beautiful universal love energy. Now, their Mars card is the Queen of Spades. Powerful card, powerful placement in Mars. It really does show when they go within and they're willing to do the work. It's a lot of energy of spiritual self-mastery. This also is why I think that they make great counselors, because of the own experiences that they've had, maybe their own hardship, their own loss, but they've had to really go within and really master from the inside out, because that is the Queen of Spades. It's like you have more inner control of the emotions, of the mind, of the money, of the work, of your spirituality. Also, we know the queens as nurturers, mothers, healers, and that's what makes this 9 of Hearts so compassionate and so healing on the high side. Now, we know queens can be a little savage on the low, off with your head type energy, but that's usually when she's pouring into everybody else and not into herself. Queens are receptive. Queens need to be spoiled, poured into. But if you're giving to everybody else and you are not giving to yourself, then yeah, she will become savage and cold and emotionless. But there's a lot of discipline with her energy. There's a lot of power with her energy, but it comes from within. So really tap into that and watch the coldness. Really make sure you're, filling up your cup first, because that's where the low side, that 9, can become very emotionally distraught when they're giving so much and it's not being reciprocated. Now, their Jupiter card is the Jack of Clubs. So there is this like elevating the mind and the words, and there's a playfulness, a creativeness. This is a gift of gab type of energy. So very social, very convincing with their words, but at the highest, especially since they have this 7 of Clubs in Mercury, really, revolutionizing your thinking, spiritualizing your thinking outside the box, the creative wordplay, creative endeavors, and really, kind of being open to different philosophies, different information, different knowledge, different practices can be a blessing. Knowledge can be a blessing this week as well, especially if you're exposed to different types of knowledge that really brings you to higher ways of thinking, communicating, information, all that club energy. Now, their Saturn card is a 9 of diamonds. So not only are they a 9, but the Saturn is a 9. And having a 9 in Saturn can be very challenging for a lot of people. And in this week, as well as we all experience this 9 of Hearts week collectively, we may have to, again, let go of something valuable, right? Put those boundaries down. If people come out from the woodworks with retrograde energy, say no. You don't have to entertain it. But I will say this with this 9 of diamonds. There can be expenses. There can be something of value that's trying to be released or let go. Or even if we're holding on to something, it can be removed. And that's where it can get icky. So trust, surrender, let it go. You're learning like I'm not attached to any of this, right? As quickly as it comes, as quickly as it can go. Either way, I'm grateful. Either way, I see the purpose of it. Again, if something is invaluable, if something is holding you, if something is like a dead weight or an anchor, why would we want to take it with us? Why would we want to keep dragging it, right? And sometimes when 9s are in Saturn, that removal can be a little like icky or hard because we're not understanding why it's being taken or removed from us. But I promise we typically start to see like, oh, that's that person or that situation or that job or whatever it may be was actually no longer good for me, detrimental to me. And it was better that I let it go. Sometimes if we're not willing to, the universe, God, Saturn will take it. So be open to surrendering, to not being attached, and also making sure having boundaries is going to be key. Now, Uranus is the 7 of spades. Since we have a 7 of clubs in Mercury and a 7 of spades in Uranus, it will be very imperative that while you're traveling this week, pay attention. Don't be distracted. If you're cooking, be mindful of like sharp objects. Sometimes that 7 of spades, especially in Uranus, can come in suddenly out of the blue. And it's a very spiritual card. It's the card of faith. But being also a card of accidents is because when we're driving, right? And if you're not actually paying attention, you're on your phone or you're reaching back for the kids or whatever you may be doing or thinking about all the stuff you got to do, you're physically driving, but mentally you're somewhere else. And that's why it can show as accidents because you're not paying attention. You're not in the moment. Now, yes, because it's in Uranus, we can experience sudden like triggers of fear, doubt, worry, lack. And we also can experience sudden opportunities of faith, belief. It's like really like spiritually connecting, realizing you're aligning with higher power, with a higher force. But that it's also like with the 7s, it's seeing yourself as the source, seeing yourself as the plug, speaking life, having faith, slowing down, paying attention, and going within. That's the best part of those 7s is really being able to go within, doing like an inventory, where do you may have some lack or doubt or worries or fears or even bad habits, bad health stuff. It's a good week. And because of these 9s, it's time to release it. Let all that stuff go. So slow down in this week. Take your time. Try not to be distracted. Try to be in the moment. And if certain things do pop off, ground yourself. Bring yourself down. Find things to be grateful for. Find things that you're with gratitude and appreciation. And that really does kind of help like calm those 7s and bring them back to their more magical space, which is in the moment, in the now. Now, the Neptune card is the 2 of clubs. And that's where I kind of find like that. It's interesting that Mercury is going retrograde in this space because you may find people coming back from the past to have a conversation. 2 of clubs is very much about making sure the communication is very clear. But Mercury's in Pisces. The sun is in Pisces. Venus is in Pisces. The North Node is in Pisces. There's no clarity. This is the 12th house. This is deep waters. So we may need to communicate with music or poetry or art because there's not a lot of logic here. There's a lot of feels and intuitiveness. So again, if someone pops back up, you got to really sit with yourself. Is this worth it? Do I need to have this conversation? Do I need to entertain this? That's between you and you. But again, with the 2 of clubs and Neptune, making sure that the communication, that not only are you communicating, but they're hearing you. They're understanding what you're trying to say, because there can be a disconnect with Mercury and Pisces because they're sometimes in that Delulu land. And so you got to make sure that even what you're saying is being received and that you're also receiving what they're trying to communicate with you as well. Now, Pluto is the King of Clubs. And so, and interestingly enough, today is Wednesday and today is a King of Clubs day. So today could be interesting since it's the Pluto card for the card of the week. But this also shows, like, again, think about it. 7 of Clubs in Mercury, Jack of Clubs in Jupiter, King of Clubs in Pluto. They're being challenged to use their mind to its fullest and brightest potential. This is also what makes them extremely intelligent and really being able to discern, make better decisions, and also communication. But there's a lot of maturity here, and they have to mature through the mental, right? 7s are a bridge from the mundane to the spiritual. The Jacks are the bridge from what I call the peasant to the royal. And this is royalty, a royal mind, royal thoughts, royal communications, communicating clear, but it's in Pluto. So there can be challenges, there can be fears, there can be reservations, there can be stuff that's coming up that, again, you have to focus your mind, you have to believe in your own mental self and your thoughts. But if your thoughts are like flippity floppity, that's where you have to kind of really invoke the power of the King of Clubs and take back control of your mind. But again, it's in Pluto, so it can bring up some shadow stuff, and it's really asking us to mature, not just emotionally, but mentally. And then the reward card to the King of Clubs is the Jack of Diamonds. So there is this, again, elevation, initiation to, because 9s are like the cycles of things ending, but also completions, but also wishes fulfilled. So the blessing is that even if this is ending, it just means something better is coming. And the Jack of Diamonds being here, it can be better in business, money, creativity. I like to call the Jack of Diamonds, I have this saying for the hearts, they're Rico Suave energy. The Jack of Diamonds is one of the only non-heart cards I give my Rico Suave title to, because they're very charming, they're very persuasive, and they're very good in business and very creative. But again, they have a lot of Neptunian energy, so there can be some delusion about them, but there's like a persuasiveness, a charm about them. They're salesman card. So they know how to sell. But again, what are you selling? Are you selling your heart? Are you selling your soul? Are you selling your mind? Do you believe in yourself? Do you see your value? Do you see your worth, right? Jack of Diamonds is very creative, very innovative. So think outside the box. When you really like break it down, it's asking you to kind of elevate, initiate to a higher set of values, a higher set of beliefs, higher set of principles, etc. Now, the cosmic lesson is the 4 of Hearts here. And with the 4 of Hearts, again, it is a card of home and it is a card of family, but deep down, this is very much about creating emotional security within you, especially for the 9 of Hearts. If a 9 of Hearts is emotionally secure, if they feel safe, if they feel connected to their heart and that stable energy, they'll have the boundaries. They won't overgive. They won't overshare. They won't be, out there pouring it all out on everybody. Instead, they'll be disciplined. They'll know when to say no, when to say yes, when to help, when to not. So again, tapping into that 4 of Hearts is saying, create that emotional safety within yourself. Create that emotional security within yourself. The heart, the home, the internal, right? And really, but watch the stubbornness and the rigidness. That's the low side of the 4, trying to control everything, realizing the only thing you have control over is yourself. Now, the cosmic moon is the 4 of Diamonds, and the moon card that pushes the 9 of Hearts is the 3 of Spades. So they're very supported in creative endeavors, artistic opportunities, expansion. 3s are ruled by Jupiter. They want to give us more. The low side of this can be worry, hypochondria, stress, not being able to make a decision. But typically, it's usually just energy that needs an outlet. And usually a creative outlet is very therapeutic for this 3 of Spades, and it will help the 9 of Hearts. So if you get overwhelmed, you get worried, you get stressed, go do cartwheels, blow bubbles, bake a cake, I don't know, dance. Find that outlet. It's so important for this energy. And then with the 4 of Diamonds, again, creating that emotional security, creating emotional value within yourself. Just watch the stubbornness, the control, the rigidness, or being stuck. But this is very much about getting clear. This is what I want. This is what I'm doing. And really, again, creating that boundary, that solid energy and of emotional value here. And then the most interesting thing to me is it transforms into a 2 of Spades. It's the card of brotherly love. It's the card of friendship. This is the card of bonds, partnerships, working relationships. And that's a big part of the 9 of Hearts. It's that love. It's that universal love. But it's also about help thy neighbor. right? And we've seen a lot of crazy things happening in this world, obviously. And I can only hope, and maybe that's the heart in me, that it brings us closer together. We need each other. You need your neighbor, you need your partner, you need your family. We don't got to be lone wolves. It helps to connect. It helps to, have those people that you can talk to, connect with, but it's about cooperating. It's also about creating healthier connections. So without overdoing it, without having to prove, without having to, save or at the detriment of your own well-being. So connect with the people you love this week. Have boundaries. Give more love, but make sure your cup is filled. Because if not, you're tipping over to one side and there can be a lot of bitterness and resentment. But this is a beautiful energy of love, universally, agape love, pure love. And that, I think, is what we could all use more of. So I hope it's a beautiful week. See you next week for the 10 of Hearts, and I will talk to y'all next time. Peace.